Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on the Listener's Experience Zone, also known as the Les.
We have Run Club this week on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. It is every Thursday at the 99ers Sports Bar. If you attend Run Club and say this secret word to one of the bartenders, you will receive 50% off your first draft. This week's secret word is tennis.
Tennis is very timely for the U.S. Open, along with how many U.S. Open matches we've been watching, especially the past Labor Day weekend.
We've watched, it's got to be over 24 hours of tennis at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to have bed sores from sitting on the couch for so long, but there's been some really good matches and it's been a lot of fun.
Before we get into all of the highlights, let's catch up on what we were up to this past week.
It was interesting week, fun weekend. We had some things fall apart at our house, but we got that taken care of. And then this weekend, it was nice to have a 3-day weekend. We actually went for a sunrise hike on Saturday.
We had a lot of things happen this past week that were unfortunate. One, I went to the car one morning to go to the gym. It was a 5:20 a.m. class. Go to turn on the car, not starting. Call AAA over. They jump it. We think we're good to go. Maybe the battery just died somehow. Drive it around for a bit.
AKA I drove it around for a bit.
It dies again. Need a new battery. Then we have a leak in our upstairs bathroom. Our house is 125 years old. These things are bound to happen. But it got to a point where we had to take care of it. Call a plumber in, got to get that fixed. So that was two things that just were like, oh my gosh, this is a lot this week. Third thing, you convinced me to do 2 14ers in one day on Sunday.
If you're from the Colorado area, you've probably heard of Grays and Torreys, where you can hit 2 14er peaks in one hike. We weren't going to do 2 separate hikes. It would have been 8 miles round trip. Unfortunately, it did not happen.
It didn't happen because we woke up super early. Our alarm was set at 3 a.m. to do this hike. Yes, let that sink in. And we get up, we go, we get to the parking lot by like 4:20. Parking lot is filled.
Yeah, people were coming down when we were going up, and we spoke to someone and they were like, it's already full up there. I advise you turn around. And at 4:20 a.m., didn't think that could happen. I said Saturday by accident, but we did this Sunday. I think because Saturday the weather wasn't great and it's a holiday weekend, everyone in Denver apparently had the same idea and wanted to do this 14er on Sunday, but we did pivot.
Did we tell people what a 14er was?
No.
Okay, let's just remind people what a 14er is, what we tried to do but didn't do. A 14er is when you get to 14,000 feet in elevation. You don't climb 14,000 feet in elevation, but you get up to that altitude. So it's difficult to do because the air gets very thin. It gets more difficult to breathe, but the views are amazing. But we didn't get to do it anyway. So
yeah, we actually did Herman Gulch hike, which was like a 5-minute drive from the 14er trailhead we were going to do. We started, it was like 4:47 or something. Yeah. It was before 5 a.m. And I would say the first at least hour, it was pitch black out and the stars were wild. And it was just us and Scout out there, which was a little spooky.
Yeah, the whole time I was like, we're going to die. No one's going to find us for a long time because I didn't tell my family where we were going and it's way too dark out and we were 2 women alone. And I don't think I'll do that again, but it was very cool to see the stars. But I think we were one bad person away from ending up on a true crime story.
I asked you, I said, do you think it's okay to start in the dark? And you were like, yeah. And then you got spooked when we were on the hike, but it was beautiful. We got some awesome pictures of the stars. We got to the top of the hike. It was an out and back and we saw the sun rise over the mountains. It was really beautiful. So although it wasn't the hike we wanted to do, it's still just a great time of year to hike. It's cooler out, which is nice, at least in the mountains. It's still pretty hot in Denver, but we were really tired the rest of the day.
We both took naps, which is rare for you to take a nap. More common for me to take a nap on the weekends. Did it while watching tennis, so it was wonderful.
Yeah. We do have a lot of highlights to cover this week. So with that, we will get into the highlight reel. First up, Women's Rugby World Cup, which we did watch over the weekend on Saturday. Once again, we witnessed a tie, which I feel like there's been a lot of ties lately, but the U.S. did play Australia this past Saturday, and the final score was 31-31.
I will say that I think that this has been one of the better matches within the Women's Rugby World Cup. So we did watch one of the better matches as a whole within these group stages. It was the US versus Australia, like you said, but their nicknames are the Eagles versus the Wallaroos.
Yeah, which I feel like we never hear USA being called the Eagles. It makes sense. But yeah, the Wallaroos really we were getting a kick out of that.
A wallaroo is not a kangaroo. It's not a wallaby. It's not a mixture. It's actually its own separate species called a wallaroo. Just a fun fact for you. I tried to pull up all three and I can't really tell the difference between the three. So if we have any Aussie listeners who can tell us the difference between each, like what maybe defining characteristics, I would love to know. Let's get into this match. Australia had a 9-point lead at halftime, but then the US came out in the second half with 2 tries in 12 minutes.
For our listeners who don't know rugby as well, because we're still getting the hang of the rules, if you think about football, a try is similar to a touchdown. So that's how you score. It's a try. You get 5 points for the try itself. Similar to football, you get the opportunity for a 2-point conversion where you have to kick it into the field goal. The crazy thing about rugby, you're trying to get to a good part of the field, like mostly the center, so that your kick is from the center. But a lot of times in rugby, the kicks are from weird angles.
Yes.
And really hard to get into the field goal. But they do hit some of these crazy angles, which is impressive.
Definitely. They are able to convert on some really difficult angles. It's pretty amazing to watch. But both teams during this match did miss some crucial conversions. One time the US was kicking it and they were taking a long time, and it was like on this little, I don't know, it was on a stand and the ball fell off the stand because of the wind, and then they just
ran out of time.
Anything.
There's a clock and they have to kick it in a certain amount of time, and by the time they were going to put it back on the stand, they ran out of time, and that one really drove me insane.
There were also a lot of penalties in this match, a lot of penalties that we didn't quite understand because we're new to rugby. It was interesting to see. Also, this game did end in a tie, and both teams were crying after the match, and I think both teams are upset they couldn't close it out and ensure their way out of the group stage, because we're still in the group stage. We have one more weekend of group stage matches, and neither the US or Australia have a super clear path to get into that next stage. England, who's in the group stage with them, definitely does. I want to talk about a couple players on the US. So obviously we have Alona Mar, who's playing with the US, and just amazing to see and bring so many people with her because of her social media presence and just the person that she is. So that is one person, obviously, but there were a couple of others that I want to point out as well. Erica Jarrell-Searcy, who plays for the U.S., she wears number 15. She is an absolute beast to watch on the field. She scored a try during this match. She's also gay. She's married. She's definitely worth the follow on social media. It's very funny. So cool to find a new player and be like, oh, I want to follow this person. I want to know everything about them. So that was awesome. And then also Frida Tafuna scored 3 tries for the U.S., a hat trick for her on the day before her 22nd birthday, and earned player of the match.
That's awesome. These players are so tough. They're getting tackled without pads. I do not understand how they do it.
And let's just do a reminder. This pool A is England, Australia, the US, and Samoa. The US were absolutely smoked by England 69-7 in their first match. They tie with Australia in the second match, and then they play Samoa in this upcoming weekend, which we'll get into a little bit more. And Australia will play England to close out their group.
So we need the US to beat Samoa, and we need Australia to lose to England, essentially.
Well, yeah, I'll get into that a little bit more in our looking ahead. There's some more caveats, but yes. Let's go now on to what's been consuming our lives, the US Open. And Danielle, you have been the most into this US Open I've ever seen. You are slamming your hands on the couch. You are scaring our dog. You are screaming at the TV. What has been the change?
I think you forget. I feel like I always get into the US Open. This year is probably more so than usual. I don't know. I told you that book I read, Carrie Soto's Back, really got me into it. I think just over the years being with you, I've gotten more and more into tennis because you always have it on when it's available. And it's like, I may as well start learning the players. And I have. That's part of it. Each world major, I get to know the players a little bit more. And it makes it more fun when you know people. And I honestly watch people on both the men's and the women's side, which is a lot of fun. So I think that's the biggest thing, just getting to know players and wanting to cheer for them.
We need to talk about the most important thing first, and that is the fashion at the US Open. I really think there is one front runner for women's fashion in tennis, and that is Naomi Osaka. She had a rose outfit with roses in her hair. She had a purple rain outfit, and with each outfit, she has matching Labubus, which I want a Labubu so bad. Do you have anything to say about that?
I think that's dumb, but continue.
Danielle hates trendy things, and I love anything trendy. I'm like, ooh, it makes no sense, but it's trending. I want it.
I'm the very opposite of that.
One is named Billie Jean Bling. One is named Arthur Flash, and one is named La Billie Boo.
That's funny.
After Billie Jean King, iconic tennis star, and Arthur Ashe, who the US Open, their main court is named after, and the Labubus look like them a little bit. The Billie Jean King ones do, at least. I think out of anyone, she's the only one who's like really taking time to think about her outfit, not just like seeing what Nike gives her and choosing her favorite thing. Like Nike is making these outfits specifically for her. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if athletes need to work that into their contract or if she just does it specifically. But if I were a tennis player, I'd be like, I want to wear something that no one else is wearing.
Right. You don't want to be playing someone in the same outfit. I haven't seen that yet, but I have watched matches back to back and I'm like, oh, so-and-so was just wearing that. So I agree. It's cool to have something unique to you.
I also do like Aryna Sabalenka's outfit. Mm-hmm. I like in the US Open when players wear all black at night. I think it's just such a stark contrast to Wimbledon where you have to wear all white. Mm-hmm. And for the US Open, they go hard on the all black. It kind of gives them a villain vibe. I think her all black outfit with her perfect tan and jacked arms just goes a really long way.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now let's get into some actual tennis. Let's talk about Taylor Townsend. So she is number one in the world for doubles, but she really showed off her single skill in this US Open. You may have heard of Taylor Townsend's name quite a bit this past week because she beat Latvian tennis player Jelena Ostapenko in her second round singles match. At the end of this match, Ostapenko began yelling at Taylor Townsend for not apologizing after a net cord, which is not required, but is common in tennis.
I roll because I really think this apologizing for getting a point over something that happens in a match is ridiculous.
Tennis has some strange rules, some strange things of what is acceptable and what is not. A net cord is when you hit the ball and the ball hits the net and goes over to the opposite player's side and you end up winning that point. So you won the point because the net helped you in some way.
It's part of the game. The net is part of the game. The net also prevents you from scoring a ton of points when you hit it into it. So I don't understand that part of tennis. This is the part of tennis I don't like.
And it is common courtesy for the player who hit the ball, who won the point, to raise a hand. And it's like a sorry, not sorry. It's very strange to do, but you just acknowledge that, hey, that was a little bit lucky.
This is like saying I should apologize if I use the backboard in basketball because the backboard helps me get a point.
A good point.
I just do not understand. You complain sometimes that lacrosse is bougie. Tennis is bougie. And I have really been enjoying watching, but things like this drive me nuts.
Tennis players get very upset if people are moving around in the stands. They get very upset if people are talking during a point. There's just some peculiarities. There's just some things in tennis that make it very unique and more exclusive than it needs to be. It is not a requirement for you to raise your hand, and not everyone has done it. Most people do, they raise a hand, but some people don't. And every time it's met with mixed reactions from people. Some people really think you should do it. Some people don't really care. But anyway, Taylor Townsend did not do it on one of her net cords, and she ended up winning this match. And so when they went to go shake hands, Ostapenko had some words for her and was very animated and said that Taylor Townsend had no education, among some other words that she was saying. So then after this happens, Taylor Townsend handles it so well. She's got like a smile on her face. She tells Ostapenko, I think you need to work on handling losses a little bit better. Have a great day. I'll see you later. This continues to grow as the media latches onto it. Ostapenko is white. Taylor Townsend is black. At first, Ostapenko defended herself on social media. She said that she hasn't had this done to her on a tour before where someone hasn't raised their hand. And Ostapenko, let me just put this into perspective. She's known for crashing out a lot. It's usually directed at her coaches, but her emotions have gotten the better of her to her detriment more than once. And this was just another example of that happening. So then she doesn't apologize the first time she takes to social media. She defends herself. The second time, she does kind of apologize. She said that because English is not her first language, which it is not, she didn't mean that Taylor Townsend doesn't have education. She meant that it was improper etiquette to use at a tennis match. So not really an apology. And then says that she didn't mean to say that Taylor Townsend lacked education and that she is sorry if it offended anyone. You do this sometimes when you apologize where you're like, I'm sorry.
Don't bring me into this.
I know it's a bad comparison, but sometimes people will apologize and be like, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. And I think that's a horrible apology.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yes, you've done that before, but I'm not comparing you to Jelena Ostapenko.
Yeah, you better not be.
So she does this half apology. And I think Naomi Osaka said it best when she was asked to respond to everything that was happening, which is also so interesting that we ask other players to respond during their media. But she said, this is one of the worst things you can say to a black tennis player in a majority white sport. And I totally agree. Jelena Ostapenko knows, she might not be from the US, but you know how tennis is and you know the history of it. And you just cannot say that to people. And I'm sorry, but get your shit together and be better.
Yeah.
Taylor Townsend, to her credit, was absolute class the whole time. Her reaction on the court, her reaction in press conferences, which like to do that on top of playing singles and winning, on top of playing in doubles and winning is just pretty astonishing. She continued to win. She beat number 5 in the world, Mira Andreeva, in the third round and then faced 2-time Grand Slam champion Barbora Krejcikova in the fourth round. And this is where ultimately her US Open run ended. She lost the match 2-1.
This is the match that literally ripped my heart out of my chest because she had so many chances to close it out. I think there were 8 match points where she just needed to hit one more point to win the match. Krejcikova just would not let up. Every time it was a match point in Taylor's favor, Krejcikova just was relentless and just kept winning the points back. When they went into the third set, it was like, oh, this is not good, because I just felt like the momentum was in her favor at that point. That has to haunt Taylor Townsend for a while because it was right there and she played so well but just couldn't finish.
So Taylor Townsend in this first set totally dominated. She won it 6-1. Honestly, I was like, this might go into 2 sets and be over. In the second set, they get into a tiebreaker. So they were 6-6 and then they go into the tiebreaker and it's points by points and it's 1-7. And like you said, there were 7 opportunities in that tiebreaker for Taylor Townsend to end the match and she wasn't able to do it. Krejcikova ends up taking the second set and then we go into the third and like you said, the momentum just shifts where Krejcikova ultimately won that third set and ended up winning the match.
Kudos to her, because to be able to keep fighting back at match points and winning it back, that takes some real big mental strength. Yeah. She just played a great match.
Taylor Townsend does still have an opportunity to win a trophy. At the time of recording, she's still in doubles. I ultimately hope that this gives Taylor Townsend some more confidence that she can beat top players in the world in singles and play with the best in singles.
Oh yeah. I think she's realizing and other people are realizing that she's a force to be reckoned with. I think you only get better from here.
And I just love her mental game. She does so much breathing. You can see it where she's really trying to get locked in. She has a journal that she's reading from that has inspirational quotes they were saying and some tips. And then I really like, I don't know what's in her snack box. Someone needs to tell us, but she took 3 snack bites each time she needed a snack. And I just love when people have their routine that they go through, but so mentally tough, especially with everything that was happening that week. And to do that at the US Open in front of a home crowd, I just hope this stays with her and lets her know, yes, she can be dominant in doubles, and she is, and she has an opportunity to be dominant in singles as well. Let's get into one more match of the US Open. We have to talk about Naomi Osaka versus Coco Gauff. Let's set the stage a little bit, because we've been watching Coco Gauff this whole past week, and she recently, as of a week before or even less before the US Open, got a new coach to help work on her serve. It has been a struggle this US Open, and you can see it. And Coco Gauff has been admitting to it. She struggled with her serve all throughout the summer, and then she made a change to her coaching staff just days leading into the US Open. She hired Gavin McMillan, who has worked with Aryna Sabalenka on her serves, and now Coco Gauff has brought him on her team. And changing your serve is like changing your basketball shot. It is very difficult to do. She has been struggling during matches in this US Open, even though she's been winning until she played Naomi Osaka. She was crying after matches that she had won and admitted that it's been a really big mental struggle. She said that it's very difficult to focus on her serve while playing a match, while also thinking about the other opponent she's playing and where she wants to put certain points. This is a lot to happen before a US Open. You may be wondering, like, why did she do this right before a US Open? Why didn't she just ride out her serve and then fix this afterwards? I have a couple things to say about that. One is that she was double faulting a lot. Ever since the French Open, it's just been a struggle. And then two, I really think Coco Gauff always is thinking long term. And I believe she said in one of the press conferences, I could continue to do the same things wrong over and over again and have it be seeped into my memory, or I can make the change now even though it hurts. And so I give her a lot of credit for doing this, but she faces Naomi Osaka and ultimately ends up losing in 2 sets, 6-3, 6-2.
Yeah, it's just crazy because she won the French Open in June. It really hasn't been that long. For her to win that and then have such mental struggles in the US Open a few months later, it's just hard to see. It just goes to show, we talk about this all the time with single player sports, the mental game is so important and just plays such a huge role.
Coco Gauff is very mentally strong, right? Even with everything going on, like, to have a panic attack while you're playing a match and then still be able to win, that speaks a lot to her mentally. But you could just tell that this entire US Open was a really, really big struggle for her. I think other players would have backed out way earlier, just said, I'm not doing this. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to work on my serve and I'll be back better next year. But she continued to stay. In this match against Naomi Osaka, I've never seen Naomi Osaka look so comfortable. And she actually has a new coach as well, who's definitely changed the mental piece of her game. So many times when I've watched Naomi Osaka play in the past, I'm nervous for her because you can tell she's tense. Not this match. She was smiling in between points. She looked so confident out there. She looked so at ease. It was really amazing to see her like that.
It looked like she was having fun, and even when she was losing points, you could just tell she was going to get the next one because her body language was so good.
She was incredibly locked in. She had such a clear game plan against Coco Gauff. She was like, I'm going after her forehand. Coco actually served pretty well, but her forehand was really tough to watch. It just was not working. And Naomi Osaka definitely had a good scout and was like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick with it. And it worked out for her. It's hard to see Coco go through this growing pain on such a large stage. I do think she's going to come back even stronger from it, just knowing the little that I know about Coco from her press conferences and watching her. But all the credit to Naomi Osaka, who stuck with it and sees her way into the quarterfinals. So happy to see her back, fit, and just looking so confident.
For sure.
All right, let's get into our deep dive for this week. Last week, we were speaking about Paige Beckers and Sonia Citron of the WNBA and talking about Rookie of the Year. And we said that this week, we would dive into stats of both Rookie of the Year and MVP. So we're switching gears to the WNBA. Let's get into some of these stats so everyone can make an informed decision on who they think should be Rookie of the Year and MVP in the WNBA as this regular season begins to wind down.
It's funny, last week you asked me, do you think Paige Becker's 44-point performance cements her as Rookie of the Year? And when I was looking up stats for this episode, I saw an article that said Paige Becker's 44-point game cements her as Rookie of the Year. Did you see that before you asked that question?
I see so many things. I just wonder how much stays in my subconscious when I ask a question, because cements is not a word that I usually use. So maybe, I have no idea.
Yeah, it was just funny because I was like, not one performance. And I still hold on to that, not one performance. But I think this performance just elevated her above other people. But we will get into the stats.
And maybe the person who wrote that article listens to Women's Sports Weekly and did it as a response.
I think it was written before our episode, unfortunately for you, but sure.
All right, let's get into this.
So I do want to talk about Paige Beckers first. Once again, Paige Beckers is a rookie for the Dallas Wings. She was drafted number 1 overall this past year from UConn. And there's some categories that she's in the top 10 for in the league. In the league, not just amongst rookies. So she's 5th in scoring overall, 10th in assists overall, 5th in steals overall. So the only player in the league in the top 10 for all of those categories, which I would say is pretty damn impressive. And she's top 10 in assists to turnover ratio. So she's not turning over the ball a ton. And then, of course, with her 44-point game, all those categories just put her at a pretty elite status for a rookie.
Let's break this down a little bit more. So points per game at the time of recording, all of this will be at the time of recording. Things may change within the next couple of days.
To just quickly, you mentioned we're talking about Paige and Sonia. The reason we decided to bring it to these two is when looking at stats, these two rookies are the top 2 when you look across the board. So we're not going to talk about all the rookies. We're really going to focus on them because realistically, it would be between these two.
Sonia Citron was drafted 3rd overall from Notre Dame to the Washington Mystics in DC, having a stellar year. So points per game, Paige has 18.9, Sonia Citron has 15.1. For assists, it's Paige with 5.4 and Sonia Citron with 2.4. For field goal percentage, it's Paige with 46.6, and this is where Sonia Citron takes a leg up at 47.3%, so very, very close for field goal percentage. And then in efficiency, which efficiency again takes all a player's positive accomplishments and subtracts them from the negative ones. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks would be positive contributions. Negative ones would be missed field goals, missed free throws, and turnovers per game. So in efficiency, Paige has a score of 19.6, which is 9th overall in the league. And Sonia has a score of 15, which is 24th overall in the league. With this breakdown, who is your Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I'll just say it's very impressive that they're both top 25 in the league for efficiency as a rookie. And that's just phenomenal. But Paige clearly is playing better overall. So you got to give it to Paige Beckers.
What would need to change in order for you to give it to Sonia?
I don't think there's enough time in the season, and I'm looking at stats, right? So would Sonia be able to bring up her points per game, her efficiency by the time the season ends? I mean, realistically, the Wings and the Mystics aren't going to the playoffs, so their season's going to be over soon. So I don't think much could happen for me to change my mind.
I agree. I think stat to stat, you have to go Paige here, and I think that's what we're going to see. So that's our bold prediction.
Yeah. And it's nice to have some stats to put behind what we're saying here.
A more difficult one to speak about is the WNBA MVP race. Let's get into this.
Yeah, I would say these stats are a lot more closely aligned. I also think the players we're going to talk about and the teams they're on, they're winning. So that also plays a role. I think there's so many factors that you have to look at. So I agree. This one's going to be a little more challenging.
So to me, the MVP is down to 3 players. And those 3 players are Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, and Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to throw Alicia Gray into this mix, but she just is not at the top of the stats we're going to go through here. But her personal career year and her impact to the Atlanta Dream, I just want to give her a shout out there because she's just playing amazingly. But let's get into this a little bit more.
Yeah. So points per game, you have Asia Wilson and Nafisa Collier leading the league with 23.4 points per game. At the time of the recording, they are tied in points per game. This is where Alyssa Thomas falls below them quite a bit because she's at 15.8 points per game. But those are the stats for scoring.
And then with rebounds, A'ja Wilson has 10.1 rebounds. She's second overall in the league. Alyssa Thomas has 8.9. She's third overall in the league. And Napheesa Collier is at 7.7, so not in the top 5. The number 1 in the league is actually Angel Reese with rebounds per game.
And then assists is interesting for these three, just given you have A'ja and Alyssa who are forwards, right? And then Napheesa, I feel like she's kind of an in-between player, bigger guard.
A stretch forward.
Yeah, but
is that what they call it?
None of them are point guards.
Alyssa Thomas leads the league in assists with 9.2 per game. She is number 1 overall in the WNBA. And then this is where Napheesa is 24th in the league and A'ja is 28th. It is amazing to me that a forward leads the league in assists.
I agree. And I will say one thing. This also may play into why Alyssa Thomas has less points per game. She's passing the ball a lot, where A'ja and Napheesa, I think, are probably taking more shots than her. Just something to think about. But it is pretty amazing at her position to have 9.2 assists per game.
Yes. Let's get into field goal percentage. So Alyssa Thomas is the best out of the 3, shooting 53.9%. The next is Napheesa Collier at 53.1%, and then A'ja Wilson at 49.4%.
And then the last category, similar to the Rookie of the Year, will cover efficiency. And you have A'ja Wilson, number 1 in the entire league with 28.4 efficiency rating. Napheesa, right behind her, has a 27.4, and then Alyssa Thomas ranked at 3 with 25.9.
This is pretty amazing. It's amazing to be at a time where we have 3 people that we can talk about that could be potential MVPs. This race is incredibly close. It's not just one person outright, and I just think that speaks to the league a lot and speaks to the players. These are 3 amazing players. So let's get into some of these details beyond the stats. So Napheesa Collier missed 7 games this season due to an ankle injury. At the beginning of the season, I was like, Napheesa Collier is the MVP. The way she was playing was just incredible. Both A'ja Wilson and Alyssa Thomas have missed games due to injury, but because this injury for Napheesa Collier has been towards the end of the season, I feel like there is this, I think it's called recency bias, where like you just remember the people who are doing well within the past couple weeks. It's hard to be like, well, yeah, but Fee's been having a great season overall. But because she has not been playing as much and is just getting back after this ankle injury, I do feel like that's dropped her down a little bit in this MVP talk.
Yeah, and we'll see, because there are games to be played, and she did come back from that injury and have an unbelievable game right off the bat. So she picks up like she never left off.
Definitely. Alyssa Thomas is the league leader for both triple doubles and double doubles. She has 7 triple doubles this season, and she has 20 double doubles so far. She is tied with Angel Reese. Angel Reese's name keeps coming up here, but Alyssa Thomas has the most triple doubles in WNBA history with 22 in her career. And then the second place person is Sabrina Ionescu with 4 in her career. And Alyssa Thomas has 7 this season.
That's insane.
It's just a wild stat. And just although her points per game are lower than A'ja Wilson and Napheesa Collier, to be able to do that through points, assists, steals, blocks, rebounds, she is an all-around player and so valuable to any team that she plays on.
Yep. That brings us back to A'ja Wilson, who this season has 10 30-point games so far. And with this, she's the first player in WNBA history to have multiple seasons with 10 or more 30-point games. A scoring machine.
She is. And Becky Hammon, her coach for the Las Vegas Aces, said it best when she said, quote, "She's going to be the greatest player to ever play this game when it's all said and done. Don't miss it. She's here. She's in her prime and she's killing it, period." End quote. And I've been thinking about this a lot because A'ja Wilson, the Aces weren't doing great. She put the Aces on her back. She said, I'm going to play even better. Even though I've been playing great this whole season, I'm going to play even better and we're going to start winning. And I saw something the other day that said, don't get bored of A'ja Wilson's greatness. Yes, she's won MVP multiple times now. She is always so consistent. Every time she goes out, she's going to have a good performance. She rarely has a bad performance. And to me, I'm like, are we just getting bored of her greatness? And that's why we're having these other MVP talks, but she's just so good. And I don't want to just give MVP to someone else because we're bored of how good she is.
I think A'ja Wilson makes things look so easy that you're like, oh, that wasn't that impressive when it is, but she just makes it look so effortless that it tricks you. I think that's a great point, to not get bored with her greatness, because she is great. She deserves to be recognized as that.
So who's your MVP?
I have to say A'ja Wilson right now. Looking at these stats, just watching her play these past couple games, the Aces have really turned things around. I think A'ja has just been locked in. And if she continues to do that, I think the Aces are going to be scary in the playoffs. What about you?
Yeah, going through the stats and having this conversation, to me, it's still A'ja. She's still the MVP to me for the 2025 season. And then I would say a close second would be Alyssa Thomas. And I know Fee is amazing, but I don't know. That's the way I'm leaning. It's really a fun conversation to have, because someone could come in and tell me all the great things about Nafisa Collier, and I'd be like, you're right. And maybe she should be MVP.
Yeah, and I would probably put her in my second in that category. But we'll see. I'm curious to see, one, who continues to play well, right? There's still games left in the regular season, and which way the votes go. I'm very curious.
And to that end, voting for MVP is interesting because you vote for 5 players, I believe, and you rate them 1 through 5. Someone could get all first place votes, but if they, for some reason, don't get a lot of second or third place votes, like, they might not get MVP. So if you just are consistently named within that MVP talk, you have a good chance of getting MVP, even if you're not listed number 1 every time, because of how they do the rankings. So this is going to be very interesting. And I do think no matter what, people are going to be upset because you have 3 really great arguments for an MVP. But again, for me, it's A'ja.
I agree. With that, let's talk about what we're looking forward to this week. What do you have for us, Carolyn?
Let's take it back to World Rugby. The U.S. is keeping their hopes alive, hoping to make it out of the group stage. They play Samoa this Saturday, September 6th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports and Paramount Plus. It will be difficult for the U.S. to make it out of the group stage, but here's what needs to happen. So the U.S. need a bonus point and a win over Samoa.
Can you explain what you mean by bonus point?
Yes, a bonus point in rugby is 4 or more tries in a game. So they need to score at least 4 times and beat Samoa to have a chance here. Australia also needs a bonus point, but they don't need the win.
Interesting.
So as long as they score more than 4 times against England, which, as a reminder, the U.S. only scored once, they would seal the deal to get out of the group stage. Should the U.S. get a win, score more than 4 times against Samoa, and then Australia fail to get their bonus point, it will come down then to a points difference. So on top of all of that, we really need England to take it to Australia, score a bunch on them, and the U.S. to score a bunch on Samoa. So it's not looking great.
This makes a lot of sense why both teams were so upset after the tie, because this really, they have no idea. And they can't even decide their own fate necessarily. They can do certain things and the other team could do other things and still not end up in their favor. So that's going to be tricky.
It's always a difficult thing when you don't own your fate and you have to have so many things happen mathematically in order to make it out. It's never fun, but it is possible.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to this week?
Staying on the U.S. Open train, the semifinals for the U.S. Open are this Thursday, and then the finals will be on Saturday, both on ESPN. The times are to be determined at this point, but please take a look Thursday and Saturday to see what time these matches are, because they're going to be good ones.
That's it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.